The Rundown with Carrie Saldo podcast is funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield with support services designed to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. More at armbrookvillage.com.
The Rundown with Carrie Saldo is funded in part by Armbrook Village.
This is The Rundown, your weekly news and review from Western Mass. I'm Carrie Saldo. Good morning. It is Friday, February 13th, 2026. You have one day to not buy gas station chocolates for your Valentine. You've been officially put on notice. Our rundowners this week, Berkshire Eagle reporter Talia Lusar from Adam Frenier from the NEPM newsroom, political consultant Ryan McCullum, and later in the show, Elizabeth Roman will be joining us. If you have thoughts, email therundown@nepm.org. Coming up later in the show, Congressman Jim McGovern pushes back on Veterans Administration chaplains being directed not to offer public prayers in memory of Alex Preddy, plus why the town of Great Barrington is again considering buying a private utility company. But first, some broader context for this week's news. The Congress is at odds, and the Department of Homeland Security is set to again run out of money tonight. It is day 7 of the Winter Olympics. I just checked. The medal count is at 14 for the United States. We're third in overall medals. Closer to home, some food pantry reporting. Talia, food pantries are seeing increased need in the region. You wrote in a piece this week for the Berkshire Eagle, quote, "It's typical for food pantries to see donations drop the first few months of the year, but leaders say this winter is different." Why? What's different?
We saw starting in November that the demand was really high when SNAP benefits lapsed. And there's just so much happening with the economy and everything right now. And so we saw a major increase in demand starting in November. And that just hasn't gone down at all, but the attention to it has.
And at a time where people's donations typically start to dwindle, people start thinking, I think, more about food pantries in the run-up to Thanksgiving and the winter holidays. Plus, we have President Trump's signature policy bill, which made significant changes to SNAP. More than 150,000 Massachusetts residents will have their SNAP benefits reduced or eliminated under that. At the end of last month, Jim Kinney reported for the Springfield Republican that Lorraine's Soup Kitchen and Pantry in Chicopee serves 1,000 dinners a week, and about 300 families use its pantry to supplement their groceries. That's a 40% increase from a year ago. Adam, Congressman Richard Neal was at Lorraine's. He spoke about the GOP leadership in the House coming out with a new farm bill. And he said that it's going to give Democrats an opportunity to reverse the cuts. Do you think the Democrats will be able to make the case, though?
Well, that's very interesting to think about that, just because, the margins are so tight in terms of, the majority on Capitol Hill. Who knows what's going to happen? There's been votes that have swung one way or the other on just a couple of Republicans crossing over. I don't know what's going to happen. And you think about this issue, costs are up so high that people that normally would donate maybe can't afford to. And then, of course, because things are so expensive, there's more need. So it's almost this double-edged sword that's seems like it's just very hard to get around.
Yeah, it's budget season. Governor Healy is proposing increased investments in Massachusetts Emergency Food Assistance Program and the Healthy Incentives Program amidst other competing priorities. Ryan, what is the likelihood that those two elements might stick for this one issue?
I think they will here at the state level. I think the Commonwealth, we're lucky to be here. And I think Governor Healy and the legislature see food as a necessity for our citizens. And so, filling that gap where the feds can't make up, the Commonwealth's good at. It's interesting. Of course, these hits aren't going to take place until after the November midterms, right? So the Republicans were smart in doing that. They didn't want it to take place throughout the year and hurt their chances even more. But I think there will be some changes, and I think the majority might flip, and we'll see if that farm bill might be something that they can, Congressman Neal can get something done in.
Talia, it was interesting hearing you mention SNAP. SNAP serves more than 1 million residents in Massachusetts. 32% of those are children, 26% are seniors, and 31% are people with disabilities. Congressman Jim McGovern was also at Lorraine's, and he was speaking about how he views this not as an issue of resource. It's not a lack of food that we have here in the United States. He really considers this a political issue. Ryan, your bread and butter is politics. Do you agree with the congressman there?
Absolutely. Part of this administration seems to want to exact pain on certain people, and vulnerable folks sometimes are those people, and also, having the opposing party focusing on these things instead of other things, and kind of, extending out the overall game, and they're spending time making sure people eat rather than worrying on other policies, is part of a strategy.
In the shorter term, Talia, when you were talking with food bank providers, what did they tell you about some of the ways that people can help if they're interested in doing so?
So the best way to help is monetary donations, because they have the resources to stretch that money a lot further, which is something that they struggle to say out loud because it sounds weird to say, please give us
your
money.
Cash.
Though the food drives from schools and police departments and everything like that, they say is a great learning opportunity for a lot of people and still really beneficial. And then if you cannot spare a dime, volunteer. Volunteering is a great way to get involved and make some significant help in the community.
Fantastic. All right, moving along. Headline, Rep. McGovern pans effort to muzzle chaplains over Alex Preddy's death. This was reporting out of the Springfield Republican newspaper in recent weeks from Jim Kinney. And then we saw this week Congressman McGovern responding, quote, U.S. Representative Jim McGovern said redistricting Veterans Administration chaplains from offering public prayers in memory of Alex Preddy is both, quote, incredibly insensitive and probably illegal. McGovern, a Democrat of Worcester, wrote to Veterans Administration Secretary Douglas Collins February 6th, citing an internal email from VA staff in Massachusetts and complaints brought forth anonymously to the Republican by a Veterans Administration chaplain. The letter follows news at the end of January that a supervisor had informed VA chaplains that the circumstances of Preddy's death were political, and the chaplain was informed of the Hatch Act, a federal law that bans federal employees from partisan activity at work. Ryan, you've been in and around politics a while now. What are your thoughts on this being a potential Hatch Act violation?
That's a wild claim. There's something called the Constitution, and banning people of the cloth from praying for a dead person, regardless of how they died. Not to get all Christian, but we pray for sinners all the time. And so for the administration to tell these folks that they're not allowed to pray for somebody or their death is it's illegal, as Congressman McGovern said. But back to what I said earlier, it's part of a strategy. You flood the zone with so much stuff that your opponents spend time fighting you on things as trivial or as crazy as this, and they're not spending their time doing other things.
And to be clear, Jim Kinney heard from the VA that there is no stated policy change here. The administration hasn't changed its position. The VA, through a spokesperson, said, quote, all VA employees, including chaplains, are welcome to memorialize Alex Preddy in their own way as long as they are respectful and it does not interfere with their work duties. That was a quote there. But still, there's someone in the organization felt empowered or compelled to send a message out to these chaplains. Adam Frenier, what's your take on this?
Chaplains are there to provide comfort, right? Whether it's the people that are residents at VA facilities or whether it's the people that work there. This Alex Preddy was somebody who worked in an intensive care ward in Minneapolis, in a Minneapolis area hospital. And I'm sure it had to have been very rattling and disturbing to people at these facilities all across the country that worked there and said, hey, this could have been me. And the chaplains are there to help them as well. And it seems like that would be doing their work duties as opposed to, making a political statement. And the whole thing, over this, it's kind of baffling that this is a battle that the administration would want to have to me. These people that work at VAs are loyal people that take care of veterans and they have needs too, and this seems like a way to try to quietly, take care of them as opposed to making this into a political issue.
Talia, you have been here reporting in the region, coming up on a year at the Eagle, but you are from Minneapolis, right?
Yes.
What do you make of this situation?
It's been hard watching it from so far away, but it's also been really amazing to see the way that my community has come together. We talk about it a lot, but we can't talk about it enough, the way that the people of Minneapolis have really banded together to stick up for one another, and that's been incredible to watch, and I'm very proud of my city.
So next steps here, circling back to the letter that Congressman McGovern wrote to the Veterans Administration Secretary Doug Collins, he asked for a response by today. I'm sure Jim Kinney will keep us updated on that. A couple of quick story updates here this morning. Stephanie Berry, the Springfield Republican, reported that Maria Leos, the longtime director of the New North Citizens Council, was fired on Wednesday, nearly 4 months after being put on paid leave amid questions about turmoil within the human services nonprofit. That's according to its board chairperson. That was a story that we dug into here on the Rundown back in November of 2025. You can check our back episodes out for that. Also, another update, building permits for a proposed and long-stalled Palmer Renewable Energy wood-burning biomass plant have been restored, with members saying that they had no other options. That's reporting from Jeanette DeForge out of the Springfield Republican. We took a look at that issue back in May 16, 2025, and big impacts for people potentially concerned about asthma rates here in the city of Springfield with that. And finally, some reporting from the beginning of this month, Jeanette DeForge from the Springfield Republican, quoting, "The city has a lot to celebrate during Black History Month this year. There is the first Black female school superintendent, the first Black police superintendent, and multiple political milestones, including having a Black plurality on the city council and the school committee." Ryan McCollum, what do you make of this?
I think it's great. The son of a Black school committee member from back in the 90s, which he was one of only a few, and I think he was the first Black chairman of the school building commission. It's come a long way. Ward representation has helped push it that way. There was a long time when you'd get 9 city councilors who are at large, and 7 of them would be from the same ward. And now that we have ward representation, it's helped with Black and brown folks. You have a majority-minority city council, and you have an all-minority school committee, except the mayor, who's the chairman of the school committee, and it's a minority-majority city. So it's representative of who the citizens are. So it's good.
Long time coming.
Yep.
This is the 40th year that the city kicked off the month with a celebration and a flag raising marking Black History Month. Adam Frenier, I'm going to turn to you. You had reporting out this morning about City Council in Springfield. Tell us what's going on with there and the Ethics Committee.
Well, the city solicitor yesterday released a letter to the city council, saying that the council president, Tracy Whitfield, may have committed a number of ethics violations. And a lot of this has to do with her involvement in a development company that her son is a part owner and that she's a part owner. She allegedly was not making certain disclosures when bidding on property at city auctions, and may have been using her influence to try to get things done with city officials. And some of those city officials reported her. This, of course, goes back to a vote that was taken earlier this month involving a piece of land that that company was looking to acquire. Her son was before the city council. And eventually she had to recuse herself. They may have to retake the vote. Where this is all headed, I'm not quite sure yet, but all of this has been forwarded to the State Ethics Commission, and we'll just have to wait and see whether the council chooses to take action or whether the Ethics Commission does.
And what is Councilor Whitfield saying in reaction?
Not much right now. She's apologized for that misstep, not recusing herself from that vote, and we're waiting to get further comment from her on all this. But certainly, only 2 meetings into her tenure as the council president, this is something that does not look good.
All right. More to come on that, and more to come here on the Rundown. We will talk about how the Berkshire Eagle has dug into its archives to look at the history of a long-standing water issue in Great Barrington. And was Sunday's Super Bowl full of bad, as the Boston Globe put it? If you have thoughts, email the Rundown at nepm.org. You are listening to the Rundown here on 88.5 NEPM. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Rundown here on 88.5 NEPM. I'm Carrie Saldo, joined by journalist Talia Luster and Adam Frenier, as well as political consultant Ryan McCullum. All right, back to reporting from you, Talia, out of the Berkshire Eagle. The headline, Bad Water, Broken Promises, Inside Housatonic's Century-Long Struggle with Waterworks. Housatonic Waterworks serves about 1,400 residents, mostly in Great Barrington. And you dug in to the Berkshire Eagle archives in a major way recently and took a look. Why did you want to do that?
As I began reporting on this topic, I quickly realized that I didn't have the full picture. And when you're reporting on something that is so complicated and there's so much changing constantly, I was just fed up with not knowing what was happening and I couldn't understand it myself. So I dug into it and quickly realized that this might be helpful for other people to understand too.
And you found that these complaints date back to 1911, with fixes delayed by cost, oversight gaps, and failed takeover attempts. Complaints of discolored water reached a boil, as you wrote, in 2018 and have persisted every summer since. What are some of the major complaints that people using Housatonic Waterworks have?
It's mainly that their water isn't clear. Their water is dirty. And it's not all of the customers, but it is a lot of them. And it's come up every single year since 2018, but it was also coming up every few years since 1911. And they're kind of in this endless cycle that they're hoping to break this year.
Some of the headlines you found: we can't drink the water. What are we paying for? Residents are up in arms over water condition. Complaints have been made to health authorities as a bad taste of water during the summer months. And there was a report done that found there was increased levels of something called manganese in the water, which is what's causing some of the odor and discoloration. The state insists that the water still meets health standards, but many people don't drink the water, right? What are they doing instead?
They're buying bottled water or they're putting in these really expensive full house filters, but a lot of people in the village of Housatonic in Great Barrington can't afford to do that.
Because the systems cost upward of $2,000, is that correct?
Yes.
And so in the meantime, the state has come in and said to Housatonic Waterworks, which has consistently, or with some consistency, asked for increased rates from the people using the water. They've said that Housatonic Waterworks need to take some action. What is that action?
They've been instructed to put in a manganese filtration system. The original deadline was last year, but that has been delayed time and time again. The current deadline is this summer. They are waiting for approval for funding from their bank, who would not loan them more money until lawsuits with all the towns that are involved were settled.
And so the town of Great Barrington at this point has stepped in and said, we'll buy it. Where does that proposal stand?
We don't know where it stands. The town voted in April to not inquire purchasing the company. But in November, the select board announced that the town had put in an offer to purchase the company, but we haven't heard anything. They meet in executive session before every select board meeting. We know that they're talking about it, but we don't know the details.
And what is the town, what has the company said in response to the town in all of this?
The company hasn't said much. We get a monthly report that is submitted to the Department of Public Utilities for the state, which then I get from the DPU. And so all we know is that they say that they are making progress in putting in a filter system, and they hope to have it completed by summer.
Adam, you were reporting there in the Berkshires for quite a few years. What do you think of this?
I realize this isn't like a water department in a town, but it kind of goes back to infrastructure and how expensive it is to maintain things, to replace things, and you can't do it all at once. I mean, some of the pipes in the Berkshires and in this waterworks, they go back to what, the 1800s at what point?
Wow.
And it's like that in a lot of cities. I'm sure here in downtown Springfield, there's some pipes that go back that far, and you have to replace them before they break, but there's certainly not enough money to do that, fix roads and everything else that's required to keep a city going. But in this case, it seems like it's so acute that there needs to be more done when you can't have a basic clean drinking water supply.
And there have been some periodic looks at what it would cost to upgrade the various parts and pieces. What are some of the estimates?
Around $22 million. which is a lot of money to invest, especially when, like all of the Berkshire County, but especially Great Barrington, there are so many other infrastructure issues, like bridges, that need other major investments.
It's never going to get less than $22 million, though.
That's right.
Thank you, Ryan. That was one of the things that I'm thinking about. Reading this story and reading the depth of the information in the archives, that this goes back to 1911, early 1900s, that people have been concerned about this and frustrated with what's going on. To me, continuing to kick the can, not going to get cheaper, as Ryan said.
Was there any, and I'm sorry, I'm taking your role, Carrie.
Go for it.
But since it's been a problem since 1911, has there been any like health impacts that have shown up over
Not
the
that
years?
we know of.
That's good.
And
then.
that's part of the reason why, you know, they're still dealing with their dirty water, is because there isn't necessarily an immediate health risk.
Manganese itself can, in quantity, or in consuming too much of it, as I read on National Institutes of Health, can have really incredible adverse health effects, symptoms that mimic Parkinson's disease, but people have not reported that. And again, the state continues to say that the water meets health standards, although people choose not to drink it because it doesn't smell great and doesn't taste great a lot of the time. Well, moving forward, I guess we're going to keep an eye on whether or not this filtration system gets installed, and you'll keep us updated there at the Berkshire Eagle. All right. It was a big sports week this week. The Super Bowl was Sunday. You may want to forget it. If you're a Pats fan, you may have already tried to repress it. The Boston Globe headline and a massive front page spread, From Magic to Misery, a story by Dan Shaughnessy. Quote, "For the Patriots, this one had it all. All bad. Bad bunny, bad offense, bad pass protection, bad quarterbacking, bad karma. Just a bad night all around for the heretofore indomitable upstart New England Patriots. Your Pats had won 16 out of 17 and not lost by more than 7 points all season. They were shocked and awed Sunday by the Seattle Seahawks, losing Super Bowl 60, 29-13 at Levi Stadium." Ryan, a former collegiate football player.
Yeah.
What do you make of this?
I've been there before, not the Super Bowl, but as fans, most Pats fans, we were happy we were there. We were happy we got to the Super Bowl. Preseason, even getting to the playoffs I would have been happy. The problem was the offense played like they were just happy to be there too. Our defense played their tails off, but we got dominated, and the offense didn't show up. But everybody's young. It's a first-year coach. It's a first-year quarterback. We had a first-year offensive tackle who should probably be an offensive guard, who is basically a turnstile that just let the defense go through to the quarterback. So we have good things to build on. The fact that we got the Super Bowl was great, and they played like, okay, we're happy to be here.
Adam Frenier.
I think a certain amount of credit goes to Seattle. At this point of the season, there's no secrets. They knew where the weak spots were in the Patriots' arsenal, and they attacked them. You know, the Patriots' defense kept them in that game as long as they could. And like you, Ryan, I said at the beginning of the year, I just want them to be interesting to watch again after the last two seasons. And they were that and a whole lot more. There's a lot to be optimistic about again in Foxborough. Sure, it's disappointing when you lose in the Super Bowl, but when I was 5 years old, they made the Super Bowl, and the Bears took care of them 46-10. So at least they hung in there for a little while. But again, reason to feel like the Patriots are back, and hopefully they can make some adjustments going into this offseason.
NBC, which carried the Super Bowl, said it drew 124.9 million viewers across its broadcasting and streaming platforms. Bad Bunny, the artist who performed the halftime show, drew more viewers, drew 128.2 million viewers, according to NBC. Elizabeth Roman, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Sneaking into the studio here, Bad Bunny named the most streamed artist by Spotify in 2025. The sixth solo album made history a week ago. The first Spanish language album to win a Grammy.
Yeah, album
of the year. Candace McDuffie of the Boston Globe wrote, "Bad Bunny isn't the first performer to use the Super Bowl to speak out. The Puerto Rican megastar joins a lineage of artists of color who stood up for vulnerable groups on the coveted stage."
Absolutely.
What did you make of the halftime?
I mean, as a Puerto Rican, it was probably one of the proudest moments for me on watching something on TV. I am one of those people that would never watch the Super Bowl, so I'm in the numbers of people that just watched him. I think as a Puerto Rican, but also Latinos in general, he was really representative of us as a whole. Little details like bringing out Ricky Martin, who brought in like Latin pop in the 90s and had to hide his identity as a homosexual man for many, many years. Having Lady Gaga come out wearing the traditional colors of the Puerto Rican flag, which is a light blue in honor of resistance. He also carried the original Puerto Rican flag, which was there was a gag order on it for many years. It was illegal to carry that flag. So for him to come out and carry it, and I think for Puerto Ricans, we understood the significance of that. But he also had this message of like love over hate as a whole, right? Including Lady Gaga, who is a white woman singing a song in English. There's this moment where he says a portion of his song Monaco, where he goes, "Esto es lo que tú querías," right? So this is what you wanted, and it pans to this heterosexual couple being married, which was a real couple who actually got married, and then it spans over to Lady Gaga, white woman singing this English song, but with a little Latin twist to it. So I just thought it was so well played out. As a nail lover, there was like nail techs in the show, the sugar cane, the cuatro, which is a traditional Puerto Rican instrument. Everything. I loved all of it.
Shaved ice.
The
Shaved ice,
sugar cane, which I did not understand until I saw a story on Axios. Those were people dressed in wrapped grass. They sort of waddled out there like little penguins, wrapped in this sugar cane. The unifying message, he had a billboard that said, "The only thing more powerful than hate is love." And there was some hate for this performance. House Republicans are calling on the Federal Communications Commission to investigate Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime performance, suggesting the content and lyrics of his show are, quote, illegal. We'll see. Any thoughts from the panel? You're shaking your head no, Talia. Do you think that this is going to go anywhere with the FCC?
No. I mean, in this, you never know in this political climate, but I think it says a lot when you have to turn to something like that to criticize something as unifying as this.
Adam Frenier, I saw your finger go up.
I thought it was just a really entertaining show if you take away the political connotations for a second. It wasn't some aging rocker up there warbling through songs for 20 minutes that we've heard for 40 years. You know, it was engaging. It was, very different from anything we've ever seen at the Super Bowl. It was entertaining, and, again, it was something different. Yes, there were some messages there that were quite significant, but just sitting there eating my potato chips during halftime, the foot was tapping, and it was very easy to get into it. I had not really known much about Bad Bunny going into this, I'll admit, but what a show person and what a show they put on.
Candace McGuffey, in writing for the Boston Globe, gave a number of examples, including Beyonce's 2016 Super Bowl performance, paying homage to the 50th anniversary of the militant Black Panther Party, saying, quote, "Beyonce's performance also struck a nerve with those who wrongly equated being American with being white, not unlike how Bad Bunny's performance irritated those who do not view Puerto Rico and its citizens as part of the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, that, story as old as time. I've lived with that my entire life. People not knowing the connection between the United States and Puerto Rico and the colonization that's happened there. Ricky Martin singing a song about Hawaii and what happened there, and Puerto Ricans being alert that this doesn't happen there as well. So, I mean, I think overall, though, he really came in at the end with this message of unity. He said he didn't just talk about the United States. He didn't just talk about Puerto Rico. He said Las Americas, o sea, which means the Americas, which are, I mean by that. And then he lists most of the countries. He didn't list all of them, but he listed most of the countries in Latin America. So you're looking at the Caribbean, South America, Central America, North America. So we are all a unit, even though we're different. Our cultures are different, but he really was just highlighting togetherness, which I thought was like such a, like punch in the face to people who were saying that he was going to be divisive.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I am going to move us to our Scoops Praise prediction portion of the show, where we talk about something that is on our mind this morning. Ryan McCullum, what's standing out for you?
I have a little praise for a client, so I want to disclose that he's a client, but Congressman Seth Moulton from Salem, who's running for U.S. Senate, at the State of the Union coming up on the 24th. He is, they get to invite guests, the Congress people, and he's inviting Marcelo Gomes, who was the teenager who was detained by ICE for over a week in Burlington and back in the summer, as a perfect example of what's going on with ICE.
Talia Luster.
Going back to the food pantries, I'm really excited because tomorrow morning I am going to celebrate one of the food pantries in North Adams celebrating 15 years.
And Adam Frenier, 10 seconds.
Valentine's Day, I want to praise my wife, Megan, for being by my side all through thick and thin.
Adam Frenier for the win this morning. My thanks to our panel this morning. You've been listening to The Rundown here on 88.5 NEPM. Have a great day, everybody.